All right, so this is just review from the last exit ticket that you guys took on Friday and Monday. You finished off. I went through some of the results. About 55 to 60%, depending on the question, are getting it right, which is good. It's more than half, but I just want to do a quick review just to make sure we get it all right. So I'm adding this ed puzzle just to do a couple of questions. I'll do an example. You guys will do a problem. We're going to do 4 of them. The last 2 are not going to be the same as what we did off of the Google form. They're going to be slightly different. So let's do the first one. So we're going to be using the AC method on this. So remember when we do that, we have our A is equal to 1. All right, we'll list these out. B is equal to -7. C is equal to 6. All right, so my AC method. A times C goes up top. B goes on the bottom. So 1 times 6, A times C, 1 times 6, I have factors of 6. Right? I'm going to change the color on this. So factors of 6 that add up to -7. So looking at this, I know I've got same sign, right? Because when I multiply them together, I got a positive. So plus times plus, minus times minus gives me a positive. This sign tells me that they're both negative. Oh, can't write up that high, I guess. All right. It's not letting me write up there, so they're both negative. So factors of 6, I got 1 times 6, 2 times 3. Right? Same sign. Excuse me. If I add them together, I get a -1 and a -6. -1 times -6 gives me a +6. -1 plus -6 gives me a -7. So I know that that is what I'm going to use. So now I'm going to take down this first term. I go x squared. I'm going to go minus x for that 1x. This is where, remember, when I have negatives, I always like to do a plus sign in between these two groups. I'm going to go plus a -6x plus 6. Right? I just brought that plus 6 down from up there. Is equal to 0. So now I'm going to group them. Right? So I'm going to group these guys, and I'm going to group these guys. Okay. So what can I pull out of this first binomial? Right? Binomial means I have 2 terms, x squared minus x. I can pull an x to the outside, and I'm left with just an x minus 1 on the inside, plus -6x plus 6. I can pull a -6 out, and when I do that, I'm left with x minus 1 on the inside, because if I distributed that back in, I get -6 times x would give me -6x. -6 times a -1 would give me a +6. All right. So now I got to look at what do I share in between these. And so an x minus 1 and x minus 1 I share. So I'm going to bring that out front, x minus 1. And what's left inside is x minus 6. Because remember, this is a -6 up here. All right. So that was all we were looking for on that Google form. So let's go to the next problem. All right, looks like stuff's not erasing. All right, this was number 2 on the Google form. Just erase this stuff away. All right, so this one's x squared minus 10x plus 21. So my A equals 1, B equals -10, C equals 21. So AC method, I go 1 times 21 gives me 21. So factors of 21, positive 21, that add up to -10, right? So my A times my C is up top, and my B is down below. So that tells me same signs. This tells me the fact that it's negative, that they're both negative. Okay. So -10, I can go, negative 1 times negative 10. And I can go negative 2 times negative 5. There, you know what? Look at this. Made the mistake. I'm doing factors of 21. All right, that add up to negative 10. My bad. My son was crying upstairs. It distracted me. My wife's up there, so don't worry about it. So basically, factors of 21. So we've got 1 times 21, and we've got 7 times 3. So they have to be the same sign. So if I go negative 3, I'm just going to change the color just to separate it here. So if I go negative 3 times negative 7, I get a positive 21. Negative 3 plus negative 7 gives me a negative 10. So both those check out. I'm going to bring down my x squared term. So I go x squared minus 3x. Anytime I'm dealing with a negative, I'm going to put a plus sign in between these two groups. I go negative 7x plus 21. And now I'm going to do my grouping. So I'm going to stop there. All right, I'm going to do grouping there, and then I'm going to try to pull out what I can from inside. So on this first one, I can pull an x out. So if I pull the x out, I'm left with x minus 3 inside. Plus, if I pull a negative 7 out, I'm left with x minus 3 on the inside. Last step, now I see what do I share in between these two. It's an x minus 3. So if I pull the x minus 3 outside, I'm left with this x minus 7, right? All I do is I bring that down and I bring that down. Okay, and I'm done with this one. You're going to do another example right now. All right, and then we're going to go down to our third problem. So this is where I'm changing things up slightly from what we did on our Google form. Just because the ones we did on our Google form, they are all the same sign. I wanted to do a couple where they're opposite signs. So I changed this problem. So if we look at this negative, this tells me that I have opposite signs because when I multiplied them together, I got a negative. And this negative sign here tells me my larger number is negative. Okay. So AC method. All right. AC, I got 1 times 6, a negative 6. So I get a factors of negative 6 that have to add up to my B term, which is negative 5. So I know I have opposite signs, larger numbers negative. 1 times 6, 2 times 3, right? So this one would be a little tricky. So I've got 1 times 6, 2 times 3. If I add 2 plus 3, I do get 5. But this is telling me again that I have opposite signs. So if I have opposite signs, it's negative 2 plus 3 or 2 plus negative 3. Either way, I'm not going to be able to get to negative 5. So this would be the only one. If I have a negative 5, larger number is negative. So 1, right? If I did 1 minus 6, I'd get a negative 5. So that's the only one that would work out. Because if I did opposite signs with 2 and 3, negative 2 plus 3 would give me a positive 1. Positive 2 plus negative 3 would give me a negative 1. So this one doesn't work out. Even though when you look at it, you're like, hey, 2 plus 3 is 5. So we're going to put out our factors now. So we're going to go 1 and negative 6. So I bring this part down, x squared. I'm going to, right now, so I don't have to do the plus sign in the middle, I'm going to take my negative 6 out first. So I'm going to go minus 6x. Because this one's a positive, that 1. And I can go plus x. And then I take this part down, minus 6 equal to 0. So now when I group it, I get it like this. I don't have to worry about pulling a negative out of any of these. So I'm all set. So on this, I'm going to pull an x out of this first group. I end up with x minus 6. I'm going to pull nothing out of the second group, right? X minus 6, it's as simple as it can get. They're as simple as it gets. So now pretend like, don't pretend. It's definitely, we have a 1 there, right? So we're going to pull an x minus 6 out. And then we're left with inside x plus 1. And we've got it factored, okay? And we can still find the roots, right? If we did that t-chart, set them both equal to 0, we could find it. But I just want to make sure we could get to this point here. So you guys are going to try another problem right now, and then we'll move on to our last example. All right. Now we're moving on to the last example. Again, it's another one where we have opposite signs. So what we need to do when we see that we have opposite signs, that C term tells us if we have opposite signs or not, the sign in front of it. So this tells me I've got a negative. Negative means I've got opposite signs. All right, when I multiply them together, opposite signs is the only way I'm going to get negative. This tells me that minus sign here tells me that the larger number is negative. All right. As soon as I see opposite signs, then I look at that one in front of the B term that tells me what the sign is of the larger number. So again, we're going to do the x for our AC method. A times C, we have 1 times negative 48 gives us negative 48. So factors of negative 48 that add up to a negative 2. All right. So you could run through all the factors of 48, but 6 times 8 is going to be 48, right? So 6 times 8 is 48. Now they're opposite signs, and they have to add up to negative 2. So I know that my larger number is negative, right? I knew that had opposite signs. My larger number is negative, so I make it a negative 8. Okay. And so now I'm going to write out my problem again. I take that x squared down. Again, I don't want this negative 8 to be with the first term of that second group. So I want to just use that now. So I want to go minus 8x plus, I'm going to bring over my 6x, right? So this 6x we're just going to bring over to there. And then minus, I'm bringing this down, 48 equal to 0. So now I look to see what can I pull out term-wise. I'm going to group these guys. I can pull an x out. So I'm left with x minus 8 inside plus 6 and 48. I can pull a 6 out. So I'm left with x minus 8 on the inside. And now one more step. I just pull my x minus 8 out. All right, we're doing like reverse distributive property. And what I'm left with on the inside is x plus 6. All right, again, this is where we could do that t-chart, and we're going to be doing more of that, where we set them both equal to 0. X minus 8 is equal to 0. X plus 6 is equal to 0. And then we just solve for x. So we'd add 8 to both sides on this one. We get x is equal to 8. Minus 6 from both sides. And we get x is equal to minus 6. All right, you guys are going to try your last problem now, and then we're going to get into some graphing. All right, thanks.